Some tell tale of a crazed bear-like beast that haunts an abandoned Catholic high school. It's time to put the rumors to the test and see if this is true. Today we will visit DB Technical High School. There are few quests that send us here. The Minuteman kidnapping Radiant quest is really the only one I can think of. But to find DB Technical High School, we can fast travel to Hester's Consumer Robotics. Hanging around outside is a legendary Protectron. This is a reliable encounter. Even after the Protectron dies, he almost always respawns as a legendary. Players with the hacker perk can take advantage of this fact by hacking this guy to turn him into a temporary companion. We head west to reach the high school from here. Along the way, we find the scavenger named Slim, peddling his goods beneath an overpass. This path causes us to arrive at the high school behind it. We see a raider barricade blocking off the primary entrance, but we want to sneak around, so going behind the building, we can access a Pulowski preservation shelter where we find an overdue book inside. This is going to be useful for later. Across the way, we see a machine gun turret, but it's disconnected from any terminal, and there are no raiders nearby. This was the school basketball court. We find two basketballs on the ground here, still inflated after all these years. Near the turret is an expert locked door. This would allow us to go in the back way if we wanted to, but I want to clear the entrance. So going around, we can crouch down to sneak forward. On the wall of the building is a big banner promoting the school's sports team, the Bears. DB Technical High School is based on a real school called Don Bosco Technical High School, which sadly closed in 1998. It looks like in the Fallout universe, thanks to the Divergence, the school never closed. The real-world version also has the Bears as a mascot, and Bethesda included a neat Easter egg with this. The logo they used for the bear on this flag is the Stormcloaks logo from Skyrim. The entrance is lightly defended by raiders. We find one raider on a platform, another raider on the roof. There are more up there, but they decided not to step closer. And then there's one raider walking around in a nearby bus. Running on over to the bus, we can tear him down. Once cleared, we can enter the high school through the main door. This high school is a lot of fun to explore, and it's not in any way linear. It's comprised of multiple floors with various different avenues by which to access them. Heading up the stairs immediately upon entry, we see some green double doors to the right, but they're chained from the other side. We can peer through a gap in the wall where we see an explosives crate, so it'll be good to get on in there when we can. The second floor is collapsed in front of us, blocking our path, which leaves going through the door to the left the only way forward. The pre-war PA system is still functional. We'll stop to listen to, presumably, the student body president addressing the student body periodically.
The fall standardized tests are coming. Sign up for Saturday practice sessions starting next month with Sister Ida.
Heading into this room, one of the first things we see is a woman's body stuffed under a desk. This must have been one of the teachers who sadly died here. This is one thing about exploring these old pre-war schools that I've never understood. Almost every school that we've visited so far has had either skeletons or feral ghouls inside.
Staff would like to remind you that baseball is for after school, and that any radio found on a student will be confiscated.
But as we all know from Fallout lore, the bombs dropped on a Saturday. Specifically, the bombs dropped on Boston at 9:47 a.m., making it a Saturday morning. Why was school in session on a Saturday morning in every school in Boston? We can ponder these important questions later. If we don't make a stealthy approach, we're going to attract nearly every raider in this school almost immediately. They come down from the nearby floors and from the nearby rooms. Once they are dead, we can continue forward. We saw a collapsed floor that made a ramp up to the floor above, but we're going to pass it by to finish exploring floor 1 first. Heading through a broken wall, we arrive in some sort of supply closet with a whole bunch of TVs and computer terminals. This must have been where teachers went to requisition terminals and televisions for classroom presentations. This door leads to another room which might have been a library. We see a small computer station and then a whole bunch of bookshelves. There's an overdue book on the computer tables, and on one of the bookshelves we find a mini nuke. right next to a cap stash. There's a book return terminal here where we can exchange our overdue books for tokens. This is useful to get the skill magazine in the Boston Library, but this terminal doesn't have anything interesting inside. After looting the containers, we can head out the western door. This leads us to one of the major hallways. The hallway is partially blocked by rubble, but we can still loot these lockers. We find chems and a stealth boy. I wonder what a kid was doing with a stealth boy in a high school. We find a few more pockets of resistance from the second floor, but I want to hop on down and finish exploring the first. This next big room was the cafeteria. It leads back out to the hallway through the big double doors against the southeastern wall. Halloween celebrations were well underway. We find a lot of decorations on the walls. On the northern side, we find the kitchen. We see the skeleton of what is presumably the lunch lady on the floor here in the kitchen, and a bottle cap mine on one of the kitchen counters. The raiders had turned the big walk-in refrigerator or storeroom into a cooking campfire. We see a bunch of meats grilling over a spit.
As a reminder, Tuesday is the last day to buy tickets for the Halloween Sadie Hawkins dance with East Boston Prep.
To finish exploring this floor, we need to head out of the kitchen and down the hallway. At the end of the hallway, we see a door to the right, but it's barred from the other side. We're gonna have to find another way in. In one of the lockers, we find some buff out next to a catcher's mitt. Looks like these sports heroes were using chems. In the men's bathroom, we find the skeleton of presumably a teen with cigarettes in his hand. Looks like smoking cigarettes in the bathroom stalls was popular even in the Fallout universe. Then heading out of the bathroom, we can go west, where we find another raider. The room adjacent to this was a teacher's lounge. We find some chems and a first aid kit on a wall, then a suitcase on a table. I wonder if one of the teachers was planning to get out of town quickly. In the teacher's bathroom, we find a stash of caps underneath the toilet. Then the other bathroom is booby-trapped with a tension trigger. Inside, we just find a first aid kit and a mirror to loot. Out of the teacher's lounge and turning right, we see some banners on the wall signifying some sport championships they must have made, stretching as far back as 1918. And indeed, this school does diverge from the real school. Remember, the real one closed in the 1990s, but the latest championship we see is from 2004. Strange that it ends in 2004, though, considering the bombs didn't drop until 2077. Now, the stairwell does go downstairs, but we'll explore that in a minute. Instead, we can go upstairs to a little mezzanine here, where we find that expert locked door that led to the basketball court behind the building. Continuing up to the second floor and immediately turning left, we find a huge bonfire burning in one of the teacher's rooms. There's a corpse on the ground, but it's not of a wastelander or a settler. Instead, it's of a raider. We didn't kill this guy. What's this guy already doing dead? On the teacher's desk in this room is our first terminal, but it's locked with a novice lock. Hopping out of our power armor, we can hack the terminal to find 4 entries, but only one of them is pre-war. The pre-war entry says Book Report Writer version 1.2.78, but trying to activate it, we don't get anything. We just get a message that says, printer not found, file corruption detected. If this was a student's desk, looks like he may have installed some sort of illegal software to write his book reports for him. But the raiders here have since taken over this terminal and have written 3 new entries. The first, boss acting strange. Something's up with the boss. Since we took Backstreet Apparel, he keeps muttering to himself, and now he's moved into the basement. I think he's drinking the pool water. 200-year-old pool water? No thanks. The next one, something in the basement. Boss says there's some kind of monster loose in the basement, and he wants it caught. Must have come in through the tunnel. No one's managed to find it yet, but we keep finding bodies. What's left of them, at least. Whatever the hell is down there, it's mean. And in the final one labeled more bodies, we read, 3 more bodies. That's 8 now. Whatever this thing is, it's nasty. Most of us refuse to go down there anymore. Everyone the boss sends after the thing, they never come back. All you hear is screams. It ain't safe here. Gotta see if I can make it to the tunnel. The body we found here must have been that of the raider who wrote these notes. And he must have been killed by the beast. Oh dear. Sounds like the rumors may be true, but the only way to find out for sure is to continue forward. Through the hole in the wall is a teacher's desk, nothing interesting in here, and then out the door leads us back into the hallway. Here we find the machine gun turret that we destroyed from the hallway below earlier, and through this door leads us to a science lab. We find chems sitting on some of the chemistry tools, and a terminal in the corner, but this just activates the nearby turret. We see a large hole in the floor. Hopping on down brings us to that one room that was hidden behind the barred door and the chain door. We can unlatch the bar.
Please remind your parents that the loading zone on Tremont is for buses only.
We find ourselves back in the first floor hallway. And then turning around to loot the place, we find some containers and the skeleton of a man beneath a first aid kit. And, 2 beds. In a school? What are 2 queen-sized beds doing in a school? Maybe this was an infirmary. We do find canisters of oxygen nearby. That must be what this is. This must have been the infirmary. Heading through a hole in this wall leads to some office cubicles, maybe where the secretaries and school finance people worked. In the corner of the room, we find an advanced lock safe.
Vice Principal Kavanaugh would like to remind the swim team that if he finds water all over the basement again, they will all receive detention.
With a bunch of money, chems, and explosives inside. And then all of the desks and cabinets act as containers to loot, which is great for those of us who have the Scrounger perk. On a nearby filing cabinet is a novice-locked ammo box next to a blood pack, and this brings us to the chained green double door leading out to the entrance.
Do you already have several days worth of detention? Donate to the blood drive and receive 2 less days of detention.
We can wind our way back upstairs using the broken floors, or if we have a jetpack, we can hop on up through the hole in the floor where we came in to finish exploring the second floor. Now that we're back in the science lab, we can exit by going through a big hole in the wall. This leads us back to the hallway where we find presumably the janitor lying dead over one of his ladders.
Seniors, I'll remind you that you must be 18 or older to attend the Army Recruitment Seminar during second period.
In the closest room, we find an interesting scene. 7 beer bottles stacked on top of each other. But it was so great, I didn't want to disturb it. A hole in this wall leads to a nearby bathroom, which in turn leads back out into the hallway.
Staff would like to remind you that baseball is for after school, and that any radio found on a student will be confiscated.
From here, we can explore a series of ruined classrooms. One room has an overdue book inside. Another room is locked with an advanced lock. This was a storage cabinet. Not much inside other than a toolbox to loot. The raiders have turned over many of these tables to set up barricades and railing, which makes me think they may have won this school from a previous group of raiders. In one of the rooms, we find the word die spelled out in blocks. Typical raider humor. And the final room on this floor on this side is really well destroyed. We have to navigate across some precarious ledges to finish exploring it. On the other side of the hallway, we go through a ruined classroom to find another classroom with an overdue book on one of the tables, and tables arranged in such a way to make a little bowling alley. We find a bowling ball on the ground and some pins set up behind a desk. I couldn't get the bowling ball to work, so instead I just ran and knocked him over. Through a hole in this wall leads us to that one room that we almost explored when we first entered the building. This is where most of those raiders came down and attacked us. There is a terminal here, but it just controls the nearby turrets. There's no lore here. That's almost it for the second floor, but before we go on, back in the hallway, taking a look on top of one of the lockers, we see something green and gold. This is a unique costume called the DB Tech Varsity Uniform. It's a unique variant of the Letterman's jacket and jeans, only it sports the green and gold of the real DB Technical High School, and it's the only one in the game. Like the Letterman jacket and jeans, it has a DR of 1, but it also has +2 to luck, making it on par with the Adam Cat's jacket and jeans in that regard. But unlike the Adam Cat's jacket and jeans, it does not accept ballistic weave, making this outfit a cool collector's item but not very useful. Now that we're done with these 2 floors, we can go back to the staircase to go up to the 3rd floor, but we find that there is no 3rd floor. This staircase ends at a door leading to rooftop access. On the rooftop, we find one more raider. Let's do this. The raiders have built a series of ladders and platforms connecting most of the levels of this roof. When done exploring, we can go back into the high school. Now we could take this staircase down to the basement, but instead we're going to take this nearby elevator. The elevator lets us out on the bottom floor, where we immediately find a raider.
There's someone else here. This way.
And we remember from the terminal that the raiders said that the beast was down here, so we need to be careful. This brings us out into the locker room. We find more buff out. These athletes love to cheat. There are some double doors in the locker rooms that lead to the pool from here, but before we go that way to explore, we can finish exploring this downstairs level. Out of the locker rooms, we see the main hallway blocked by a bunch of lockers, so instead we can go through some doors to the west. This leads to a maintenance room of sorts, which just has a bunch of containers to loot. We can go up a broken floor, which leads us to the cafeteria level of the first floor. Heading back down the ramp, we can unlock an advanced lock door behind the rubble ramp, which leads to another workshop with a whole bunch of oil covering the floor. We need to be careful not to set this on fire. Here we find a power armor repair bench if we need to refit our power armor. Otherwise, we can continue forward by going out the door. This leads us to a hallway. Turning left leads us down the hallway where we found the locker barricade. Turning right leads us to a door to the generator room, which we'll explore next. But first, we have to go through a big broken wall to the swimming pool. And it's here where we find the beast. The beast was a raider named Bosco. On his corpse is a unique item, the mascot head. The mascot head is a unique face mask that has a DR of 2. Not very practical, but it makes sense for the lore of this school. The mascot of DB Tech was a bear. It's got a big hole in it, and we can wear some head slot items under it. Here you see me wearing a surgical mask. We can wear bandanas and even a faded visor underneath the mascot head. It goes great with the DB Varsity Tech outfit, but sadly the head also does not accept ballistic weave. Part of me thinks this outfit would have been great for a raider run through. Get the home run bat from Jamaica Plain, ballistic weave on both this bear head and the uniform, and you're good to go, but alas, it was not to be. Next to Bosco's corpse is a fat man and a copy of The Unstoppables, which permanently increases our chance to avoid all damage from an attack by 1%. Nearby, we find the end of dungeon steamer trunk, a few more containers to loot, and a terminal. Bosco's terminal. Here we learn that Bosco may have been in charge of many of the different raider gangs we've already defeated across Boston. In the first one called Shamrock, he says, "We hit Shamrock Tap House before dawn. Cleaver snuck in and jammed the locks on all the exits. Then Torque let his dogs loose and the mutts took care of the rest. Once the screaming stopped, we offered a deal. They took it. Now all that's left is Backstreet Apparel. Then downtown is ours." We learned from the previous terminal that they succeeded in taking Backstreet Apparel, so it looks like most of these raider gangs downtown, at least, are part of the same outfit, led by Bosco.
We'd like to congratulate the basketball team on their victory against the Springfield Hawks last week. Go Bears!
And the next one, Damn Mutts. He says, Torque's mutt nearly took my arm off. We were cleaning up in Backstreet Apparel and the mongrel clamped onto my hand. Had to put a bullet in it just to get it to release. Can't have that kind of crap. Makes me look like I'm not in control. Torque ain't getting off as easy as his dog did. And the next one, Something's Wrong. We notice that his writing pattern has changed. He is much more abrupt and direct. Torque's mutt. I think it was sick. Since the bite, I've been blacking out. Can't keep my temper in check. Screw this keyboard. Boyd. Having some trouble keeping my temper in check. No one in this crew seems to suspect a thing, but if this keeps getting worse, someone's gonna think they can do this job better. Time I made a statement. Does this mean that Bosco got rabies from the dog? In the next one, Poison. He says they're trying to poison me. It's the water. It's all poison. Put down 3 more today. The assassins. They said I needed a break. That they're afraid I might be losing it. Might be? They want me dead. Think I'm weak. They're wrong. Torque's mutt. I can feel it, crawling under my skin. Tightening muscles, sharpening resolve. Now I'm not going anywhere. But I'm so thirsty. Need water. Safe water. The basement. Full of water. No one can reach it. No poison. But the rules need to be clear. Everyone has to know I'm still in control. Yep, definitely rabies. You know, this kind of reads like an angsty student poem from some 10th grade writing class. But now we know why he was in the pool. He was thirsty, but he thought people were poisoning him, and so for some reason he concluded that pool water was safe. 200-year-old pool water. Oh, disgusting. In the next one, the beast. There's something else down here. A beast. Other gangs must have sent it in. I see it, hiding in the dark. Catch its one cold eye watching. It just stares, lying, waiting. It's been killing my men while I sleep, leaving me its trophies. Wake up to find myself covered in blood. I sent guards to capture it, but they failed, claimed there is no monster, even while they hang from their chains. But it's down here, and I will kill every last one of them until they bring it to me. He must have seen the mascot head somewhere in the basement. It's one cold eye. We saw that the mascot head only had one eye in it because of the big hole in it. His insanity brought on by the rabies must have caused him to think that this mascot head was a real beast, and he blamed the beast for killing his men when in reality, he was the one doing it. And so he commands his men to go fetch the mascot head, which is what they do in the next terminal entry. Good boys. Good boys, they caught the beast, brought me its head. But now the other gangs need to know who the real monsters are. Time for us to make a statement. After this, Bosco will leave notes based upon your exploits concerning the other raider gangs. On this character, I haven't killed very many, but I have killed a few. The note called Last Call refers to Tower Tom at Beantown Brewery. Bosco says, good news, better than he deserves. The next one, Hyde, refers to Scudder at Hyde Park. He calls the Mirelurks lucky devils to be feasting on Scudder's eyes. Sounds like Bosco and his downtown raiders had stiff rivalries with the other raider gangs. Nearby, we find his raider throne, which is typical of these raiders, and a first aid kit with some chems inside. On one of the shelves, we find the word fun spelled out in blocks, right next to a big ammo crate. There's nothing really in the water save a life ring, so after exploring the pool, we can head out and go down the hallway to enter the generator room. As soon as we enter, we get attacked from some raiders through a hole in the floor.
Did you hear that?
Why do they even try?
After they're dead, we can finish exploring this room. We see a lot of pre-war skeletons and lots of generators all over the place, but only one of them still works. Next to a handyman skeleton still holding his toolbox, we find a fusion core. Heading down the broken floor leads us to a train tunnel. Looks like this school was built on top of a metro tunnel. At the end of the tracks near to a rail car are a bunch more raiders. Not a whole lot inside the car, 2 skeletons. Back out to the main platform, we find a novice-locked door, which leads to a kitchen area. The terminal against this wall is just used to open and close the door. We find a Nuka-Cola cherry in one of the fridges, and then an advanced lock safe against one of the corners, with a bunch of randomized loot inside. Heading out to finish exploring this platform, we see that the stairwell leading to the street is completely filled in with bricks and rubble, and both sides of the train tracks are also completely caved in. Going around one of the cars, we see a little bit of a tunnel in the earth, but there's nothing in here. Strange that Bethesda would make this and not put anything in it. But to continue forward, we can go through the southern door. After destroying a turret, we can loot a few containers. On one of them, we find some right hand bones covering 2 bottle caps. I didn't want to loot the hand, so I just moved it out of the way to loot the caps. And a lot of skeletons lying in the rubble. The door leading out of this room leads to the platform on the other side, which is swarming with blood bugs.
Just wait. Did you hear something? Oh, no, you don't.
We see an advanced lock terminal. Hacking it just allows us to open up the door, which leads to the kitchen area, which we already explored earlier. We see the skeleton of a mother next to her baby carriage, and a dead raider lying in the water on the train tracks. This raider must have been killed by the blood bugs. This terminal is more or less intact. giving us a partial glimpse of the pre-war splendor of this tube. We see colossal chrome busts sticking out of a wall, one of which has fallen down, revealing a hole in the wall and some piping beneath it, but the others are still there. I'm not sure what these signify. We see stuff like this in Fallout 3 as well. I'm thinking pre-war humanity in the Fallout universe must have just been fascinated by the Art Deco human form, but I'm not complaining, it looks cool. There's a door to the north, and we have to be careful because there's a trap here. We see a handmade tripwire on the ground connected to a gun trap, and then inside a first aid kit and a locked toolbox to loot. And then in the vending machine corner, we find a Nuka-Cola Quantum. To leave, we can go up some stairs, past a wrecked subway light, past another baby carriage, towards the turnstiles. And it sounds like there are raiders here. We hear some banging coming from a nearby room. In one of the blocked up escalators, we find a human skeleton and a baby carriage, but this carriage is a trap. That would have been a tricky one to disarm. The final raider is a legendary one. He is behind the ticket counter.
What the hell?
After killing him, we can hack a nearby terminal to release a fire protectron. These guys are a lot of fun, and they're pretty rare. I've only found a few. They use cryo damage instead of lasers. We can hack him to turn him into a temporary companion. And then opening the door to go behind the counter, we can loot the legendary raider, the cash registers, and a stash of caps behind the counter. The storeroom contains one first aid kit and an expert locked safe with some randomized loot inside. On our way out, we need to be mindful of the tripwire connected to the makeshift bomb. And I completely missed a bottle cap mine. But at least afterwards we can always pick up the bottle caps. Heading up the escalator and out the door leads to the medical center in the theater district. This means that we just finished exploring the medical center metro beneath the Mass Bay Medical Center. And that is the full story of the DB Technical High School in Fallout 4. Did you find this school in your gameplay? Did you recover the varsity uniform and Bosco's mascot head? And what do you think of the story of Bosco getting bit by a rabid dog and contracting rabies? How does he rank with some of the other raider bosses we've met, like Tower Tom, Red Tourette, and Jared? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish a new Fallout video 6 days a week on a wide range of Fallout topics spanning all of the games. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss my next video, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. And if you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning with a brand new video.
Normal. Law and order.